Hello guys, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Elwina Harefa and I'm a college in Islamic University of Raden Fatah Palembang and my major is Sharia Islamic Banking. Okay, in this video I want to tell you or I want to explain you about the understanding of asset and liability management. So we know management of both sides of the bank balance sheet, asset and liability, carried out in an integrated manner with the intention of the churning profits and with the increasing of the value of shareholders' capital. The purpose of complying the maximum portfolio of assets and liabilities in order to generate profit for bank owners. Decide on an appropriate financial planning model in the management of bank funds that is short-term. So the next is the importance of liability assets management. First, increasing operating costs, interest rate fluctuations. 2. Change in fund structure and assets compositions. 3. Increasingly fierce competition. Topic technological progress. 4. Increased capital requirement. 5. Availability of funds in the money market. And 6. The importance of bank performance evaluation and the recognition of banking institution as a system. So the next topic is asset liability management approach. There are 3 asset liability management approach. The first is pool of funds approach. So good banks fund management distinguishes type and the nature, time period and cost of each source of funds for the subsequent allocation based on priorities and strategies for the use of bank funds. Secondly, asset allocation approach. Bank fund management, which takes into account individual source of funds based on their nature and characteristics. Shares of funds with high turn-off rates are prioritized in primary and secondary reserves, while source of funds with the safety low turn-off rates are allocated for lending or other long-term assets. The third is liability management approach. Bank funds management, which takes into account conventional funding sources through leasing and selling certificates of deposits, while creating a secondary market in addition to conventional funding sources. Allocation is done by trying between the asset allocation of funds and the liabilities source of funds. So the next topic is management asset liability approach. So I want to show you the picture is what the management asset and liability approach. So this picture in here, you can see. Yeah, and the next picture in here, you can see. And the next picture is in here. You can see, guys. Okay, that's the management asset and liability approach. Bank management is demanded to maximize the use of funds, but on the other hand must also pay attention to the level of security of this asset by meeting the provisions set by the monetary authorities. Asset management is how the bank manages its funds, while liability management is how the bank manages its financial resources. Because the funds allocated by banks are funds that have been successfully collected as part of liabilities. The arrangement of the two firms is an extremely important part of the bank's operational activities. In assets, there are fixed and current assets, which mean that fixed assets are assets that do not produce or are do not productive, such as buildings, lands, vehicles, and machinery. Whereas current assets are assets that produce or can be said to be productive, such as receivables, securities, and others. The liability management approach in banking today is closely related to the use side of the asset side, so it cannot be a parade between how to get funds from the parties and then optimize the funds raised to benefit banks. The liability side can be grouped in three time parts, and namely, first, party funds derived from owners and banks' profits. Second, party fund that can be obtained through the money market. And three, party funds, namely funds coming from the public in the form of demand deposits, savings, time deposits, certificates, deposits, and security deposits, and other obligations that are immediately paid. So the conclusion. Conclusion of asset management is how banks manage the allocation of funds, while liability management is how banks manage their source of funds, because the funds allocated by banks are funds that have been successfully collected as part of liabilities. The regulation of these two is a very important part of bank operational activities. Balance sheet is a picture of bank's financial statement that presents a balanced comparison between assets, property, or banks, charged with all obligation, debt, and capital. In summary, we can mention that balance sheet is a balance sheet between assets and liabilities. Productive assets are assets that produce because a placement of bank funds is to achieve the expected level of income. In managing assets and liabilities, there are three types of risks that must be observed, namely liquidity risk, interest rate risk, credit risk. ALCEO is a special commitment that functions as a regulator of the collection and placement of funds.